Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator. I have Chris here with me today. How you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you, Cedric?
I'm doing quite well. Now, for all our guests out there, can you show them how to properly pronounce your last name?
For sure. It's Chris Chmielewski.
Chmielewski.
Got it.
I like that. Just the idea that I'm sitting here and I'm studying it, and I did not come up with the correct pronunciation, but I can now. Chmielewski.
Yeah, those are not the way the letters are supposed to get together.
It's one of those things where it just came out that way.
Right.
So let's just right out the gate. I just want to let our viewership know that we're talking to somebody who has dedicated himself to creating a national, if not international, media publication called Foster Focus Magazine, and it's been in the hands of thousands of people. I think that that's absolutely excellent, and we're here to talk about that journey today. Chris, why did you start Foster Focus Magazine?
Well, when I aged out, there wasn't any information available. The internet was very young at the time, and information about foster care, information about aging out, information on housing and how to go about doing all those things just wasn't available. So at that time, I said, if I ever get my act together, I'm gonna start a magazine, put all the information in one place. So that's what I did.
What does it mean to age out?
Well, it's in foster care, you're permitted to stay up to the age of 18. In some states now, the trend has been most states are at 21 is the new age out number.
Okay.
But once you age out, that's it. They're done with you.
Wow.
Yeah, you just kind of walk out into the world on your own, and then you have to figure it out for yourself.
Right. And so you were in foster care.
Oh yeah, absolutely. From 14, I signed a waiver when I was 18, so I got to stay until I was 19. So from 14 to 19, I was in foster care.
How would you say that foster care impacted your life?
Well, I got real lucky, Cedric. Most kids aren't nearly as lucky as I ended up being. I was familiar with all the police in my town, and I had a reputation as a good kid and a bad kid, kind of in the middle. But I was a Boy Scout, and I helped at the VFW, so I was around police a lot. So when I got sent into care, they kind of gave me they gave me choices. Basically, they said, if this doesn't work out, call us tonight. We'll come back. We'll try a different place. Most kids don't get that luxury. You are where they put you in most cases. But I ended up staying with an older couple, and I thought, I'm going to get away with everything now. I did not get away with nearly anything. But they ended up being really good people, and really straightened me out at a time when I was able to be straightened out. So yeah, no, I got lucky with good foster parents. But most kids end up in a group home, or they end up in a state facility. Some kids sleep in offices now, or have to stay in hotels. So wow. I mean, yeah, I got lucky. I got very lucky in both placement and race plays a factor in it. Black kids are I think half the time more likely to be taken into care than a white kid.
Really?
Yeah, it's disparaging. The numbers are disparaging. But yeah, no, race helped me. Just the part of the state of Pennsylvania that I'm in helped me. I mean, it was a bunch of different things to come together to make it so that I had a smooth ride through foster care. But most kids aren't so lucky. We'd have kids come in and stay a week or so, and they were just getting a break from juvie. So I mean, I got to see the anger and the hopelessness in some of those kids. So that had a big impact on me. But yeah, good foster parents is what does the trick in most cases.
Right. Wow. And so you saw racial disparity in your short experience in foster care.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you. It didn't. I'm in a very white part of the state. They say there's Philadelphia, there's Pittsburgh, and in the middle is Alabama. So I'm kind of in the heart of Alabama. So
Okay.
there there's a handful of black kids that I met while I was a kid, but I learned about the disparaging numbers when I started the magazine. Started to do research, started to do articles about different subjects in foster care, and then you find out, they're less likely to be adopted by a considerable margin as opposed
Mhm.
to a white kid. And I mean, if you get past the age of like 11 in foster care, regardless of race, it's really hard to get those kids adopted.
Right.
People like babies and they like being able to mold, and a kid that's 11 or 12 might not be moldable in their eyes. So
Right.
yeah, no, so yeah, the lack of adoptions, just the number which they come into care is far greater than those white kids. It's just strange. Yeah, there's when I started this, my wife asked me if how long did I think I could do it, and I said, well, think about it this way: foster care is this big old oak tree. It's been around for 100 years, and so it's got branches shooting off in every direction, anything you could think of. And so I said, until that tree is done, I'll have to keep doing it. And I'm 9 years in, and I haven't even got up the first rung of branches yet.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I could probably do this for another 30 years if I wanted it. If my goal was to cover every part of care, yeah,
Right.
it would take forever. Luckily, a lot of websites have popped up. There's some other magazines that have popped up along the way, so there's a lot more information out there. And I suggest to your listeners or your viewers to take advantage of all the stuff that's out there, because right now is probably the apex of foster care information. It's never been so readily available. There's never been this much of it. So
Right.
I mean, I mean, it's a weird thing to say, but this is kind of the golden age of foster care, at least the information part of it.
Right.
So yeah, no, we're in a weird time, man.
There's a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot to unpack when you're dealing with foster care. And just so you know, our audience is already here. We've got Yolanda Riley who says, "I was surprised that my son was considered special needs because he was a 15-year-old African American waiting to be adopted."
Yeah, no, that I wish that shocked me, but that does not shock me. Yeah, I mean, the farther you go down the rabbit hole, the more stuff you find, the more stuff you learn. Uh, but I'll tell you what, the one major thing that I've pulled out while doing all this is the people who lived it have the best articles. They give the best advice. They're
Hmm.
the best speakers at events. They're they should be the lead, and social workers and directors of agencies should listen to those voices.
Right.
It's hard to tell, but it's hard to tell them to do that, Cedric, because I mean, the social worker put in how many years of college? 4 years of college just
Right.
to get that degree. Doesn't want a kid I mean, I have a GED and I sit on panels with PhDs, and I can see them looking at me.
Right. Right.
you
Right.
know,
And
but yeah, no, the one thing I've taken away from all this is that the people who lived it are the ones who should be talking about it.
right, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Chris from foster care. Tell me how to pronounce your last name again.
Chim Molesky.
Chimaleski, because every time I
Yeah.
look at it, every time I
No,
look
it doesn't make sense.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
you're right.
We're talking to Chris Chimaleski, and he's somebody who created a foster care magazine during a time when what was the internet pretty much viral when you started the magazine, or
Yeah. So much time had passed from when I aged out to when I started the magazine. Enough time had passed that the internet was just what everybody used all the time.
right,
Because I started the magazine in 2011, so YouTube's big, everything's big,
yeah,
everything's established. Uh, but yeah, no. But when I started, I was one of only two magazines devoted to foster care at all. There's another magazine for foster parents out there in the world,
Mhm.
and they and I occupy the entirety of foster care magazines.
Now, that to me is a disparity in itself. When I meet people and they're still not familiar with foster care, and as I got older and I went around and spoke to youth who are in care and just heard the variety of stories that were out there, and I'm thinking more people need to know about this.
Yeah,
There needs to be awareness raised about policy change that could take place, changes in training that could take place, changes in the actual infrastructure of foster care that needs to take place. The greater society needs to know about that. Now, out of the thousands of media outlets out there, there's only 2 dedicated to foster care. Isn't
yeah.
that a staggering statistic to you?
Oh, absolutely. I was shocked that there wasn't more, and I was shocked that it took a kid from care to make something happen. Yeah,
Right.
it's really it's really and what's strange about it is you still meet people that don't know anything about foster care. But if you were to ask them to sing "The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow," they'd know it, and they wouldn't even realize it. And how do you not know about it? Annie is in an orphanage.
Yeah.
That's foster care. You could sing the song, but you don't know the story. It never made sense when somebody said, "Oh, I don't know about foster care." That never made sense to me because
Right.
how many movies does it featured in? How
Right.
many TV? Oh, you watch Law and Order. We're always the bad guy.
Yeah. Oh, you're a bad guy. That's right.
How do
No.
you not know about foster care? It baffles me.
Right. Right. And to that point, if I'm not mistaken, and we were in pre-production, and you said that there are people who came out of foster care that you wouldn't imagine. Have you compiled a list?
Yeah, actually, you sneaky. What a segue. Yeah, absolutely. I have on my website at fosterfocusmag.com, I got the most complete list of former foster kids and adoptees in the world. It yeah, it took years upon years of checking and double checking because I mean, foster care isn't necessarily a dirty word, but you don't want to say that somebody was in foster care and they weren't. So I had to do a lot of research, and some of these folks don't necessarily want you to know that part of their life, uh, and some of them come out of nowhere, uh, like like the guy who invented the microwave. Unless you read that on my website, you probably wouldn't know that he was a foster kid.
Wow.
Uh, I got Gumby back here behind me,
How does
and
government play in?
yeah, Gumby was created by Arthur Coakley, who was a former foster kid. No,
Wow.
yeah, I like to. My buddies like to play a game where they'll name a movie, and I have to figure out what the foster care connection is to that movie.
Wow.
And so yeah, really surprising names like people. There's names that you know, especially like 10 years ago. Everybody knew Dante Culpepper, you
Right.
know,
Right.
and but now I found Grandmaster Flash, and that's not readily available knowledge.
Right.
Uh, the Eddie Murphy and his brother, uh, the Stallone brothers. I mean,
Right. You know,
this
I
is
would
crazy.
what I would like to do is I'm going to take myself off the screen because this is a milestone in this particular interview that you've done this amount of research. I think you said it took you 9 years to compile this actual list.
Yeah,
Uh,
the
I
people
would
still
like
give me names.
I would like to screen share right now. I'm going to scroll down your page of these different celebrities, and I just want you to talk about this compilation. Who are we exactly looking at, so that we can let our viewership know? Like, listen, foster care has impacted people that you love to watch every single day. So, give me 1 second, and I'm going to share my screen. All right.
Sure. And I find new names all the time. The NFL draft will happen. They'll feature a story with a kid who was adopted. NBA draft. Well, a lot of the sports things, you come up with a lot of new names. So these are just some movies that either star or were created by somebody who was in foster care. Some of the faces you might recognize, of course, Rocky and Eddie Murphy in Coming to America, Tiffany Haddish for Girls Trip. Uh, Jamie Foxx was kinship care, is what it's called when you live with family, but not necessarily your parents. And this is the musical these music albums created by former foster kids. Some of the people get excited. They say, "Oh, Metallica," and the lead singer of Metallica stayed with his grandparents, so he was kinship care. And here's some of the businesses that former foster kids have been a part of or adoptees. Of course, Apple. Everybody knows that fella, Steve Jobs. One of the people the original person who ran MGM Studios was a foster kid. LL Bean was created by a foster kid, Vidal Sassoon. Wendy's, Dave Thomas is pretty well known as a adoptee and foster kid. The person who invented Domino's Pizza, Tom Monahan, he was a foster kid. And these are just some of the sports. That was an interesting Super Bowl because there was a foster kid on both sides, and those are Mike Tyson's awards. Yeah, I mean, some of the names might surprise you. Tina Turner lived with her aunt. Trent Reznor lived with grandparents. Willie Nelson was a foster kid. Of course, there's Tiffany Haddish there. Ice-T was in foster care. That's a pretty well-known fact. Cher. Um, and some young people like Rachel Crow, she's young and she was in care. Jack Nicholson is interesting because he thought his aunt was his. He thought his mom. Wait, he thought his aunt. He thought his aunt was his mom, and it turned out his aunt was his mom. It's very. It's a weird thing to explain. Of course, there's the game. Uh, Skrillex, former foster kid. Art Linkletter was a famous producer of TV shows and game shows mostly. Victoria Roel was a big star. Keisha Cole's a big star. James Brown, of course. And I don't know if you recognize Felicia Stu Pearson from The Wire. Gary Coleman was adopted. These are just, I mean, these are famous people. Daryl DMC McDaniels is a big part of foster care still. Speaks at a lot of events. He gave me an award once, and then they sang "Tricky" right in my face. Richard Pryor lived with his grandmother at a brothel. Yep, there's the guy who invented Gumby. Look how happy he is. Keegan Michael Key, of course, was adopted, as was Tim McGraw. Kurt Franklin was adopted. He's big in the gospel world. Now, this is interesting. This fella here, Jeff Hoffmaster, he is a background actor on the show William H. Macy stars it. It'll come to me. But he's a great actor. You've seen him in like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, lots of TV shows. Great actor. Jamar Neighbors is a comedian. We're coming up to the comedian section of the list here. Monroe Martin, Robert Kelly. These are all working comedians, famous working comedians. Joe DeRosa was adopted. Sam Morril was adopted. These are all top tier comedians. Adrienne Appalucci, she was on Netflix recently. So yeah, just an amazing list of people who walk the same path that a lot of kids in foster care are walking now.
You know,
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Cedric.
that list goes on and on and on. And so where can people who might be doing their own research or just want to go back for their own educational purposes find that list? What site is that on?
Sure, that's at fosterfocusmag.com, and it's right on the top of the page there. It'll have famous former foster kids and adoptees.
Wow. That's huge to me. That's absolutely huge to me. When anytime somebody who's growing up in care can identify with people who have gone out there, become resilient from what they've been through, and make something out of themselves, and then let alone become world famous, I think that that's somebody that you need to know. For instance, when I found out that Dave Thomas was in foster care and my mother helped me to connect with the Dave Thomas Foundation, I was able to speak for their national conference. And till this day, I have a high regard for Wendy's. I have a high regard for Dave Thomas, and anybody who was in foster care who I see, doing the best they can. I automatically feel like we're family, and I automatically feel like there's somebody to know. That's one of the reasons why I created this platform. And I also want to acknowledge a gentleman. You should be on that list going forward. And we talked in pre-production. You said that you're getting into comedy a little bit too. Talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I oddly enough, I decided to do comedy to alleviate my stage fright. I was asked to speak at a bunch of foster care things, and I wasn't comfortable in front of a crowd. I've done a couple of things within the foster care world. Uh, Shalita O'Neill puts on an alumni powerhouse convention, and I've hosted that a couple times. But yeah, no, I was having some stage fright issues. I've always written jokes. I've always loved stand up, and I guess maybe 2 years ago I decided to just try it, and I have a show this weekend in a parking lot, so I'm living the dream.
Right. Wow. So would you say that your real inner desire or one of your hidden talents was actually comedy?
Yeah, I've always wanted to either write for a TV show or do stand up, and I just had kids and whatnot, so I kind of got pushed back on the back burner. But I kind of always do whatever it is I say I'm gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so next week I'm gonna be a cowboy astronaut. I'm excited about it.
Okay.
I'm excited. Oh, I always hey, we only go around the world. We only go around one time. So if there's something that intrigues you or something that you think you might like to do, give it a shot. I mean, you're only going to regret that you never tried it.
Right.
So
Now let me ask, how old are you?
I'm 40 now. I think I might be 41. I haven't checked in a minute, but
Yes.
I'm older.
Sometimes I forget how old I am. I have to call somebody and say, "Hey, how old am I again?" Oh yeah, that's right.
You're either 22 or 78. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Got to be a milestone in order for you to remember it. But I think it's also powerful that okay, you created Foster Focus magazine based out of your experience and your desire to do something, right? That wasn't necessarily your number one ideal in life, right? But you stepped up to that call to action and you delivered magnanimously, which for those of us out there doesn't remember that 10th grade word, generously and in a very gracious way. But you also got around to doing a true passion of yours, which is comedy. What would you say to people out there who they might be answering a call of something that they've had to do, something that they've had to take responsibility for in their life, but they really want to get back around to some of their true passions? What would you say to them today?
You just got to do it. I mean, not to be cliche, but I mean, you're gonna sit around wondering otherwise. I've got the benefit of a fantastic wife whose only passion is her family.
Wow.
Meanwhile, she's married to a guy who has 900 different passions,
Right.
and generally is doing one or two of those passions at any given time. So she gives me the leeway to go out and try new things, and I mean, I wanted to. I wanted. I love to go. I love to do road trips when I have something to do foster care wise. To get to stop and see everybody,
Mhm.
and she affords me that luxury. I mean, the fact that people could see my face during the first 5 years of the magazine, it made a real big difference. And
Mhm.
there was a lot of times that she was left to take care of the kids on her own, uh, and not like I'm doing a lot when I'm here anyway. But they're all self sufficient. But she allows me to go out and do these things, and thankfully, because it makes a huge difference when people see you face to face, rather than over email and whatnot. And Dave Thomas, you're right, it's a great outfit. They've been an advertiser of the magazine for, I gotta say, I've been around for 9 years. They've probably been with me for 7 of those 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah, they're great people over there.
Yeah, great people. How many people would you say that you've met as a result of your work in media?
Thousands, man, probably, or definitely hundreds and hundreds. Definitely hundreds and hundreds. I've actually made, I've actually built relationships with hundreds and hundreds of people in the last 9 years. And actually, it was good training for the stand up because, not being competitive and being open to suggestions is a huge reason that people like me. And being likable gets you more shows in the world of comedy.
Hmm.
So, I mean, great prep to learn, how to deal with people. Before I started the magazine, I sold cars, so there I had a little bit of like. I actually wrote something for the Huffington Post, and it was called "They Would Hide Their Purses" because you know used car salesmen have a bad rap. Even with Carfaxes, it's right there. I can't rip you off. Anyway, um, that was a good place to learn and talk to me, learn how to talk and meet with people, and the money that I made from that is what started the magazine. So the last three gigs, or the last three things that I've done, have all been talking and relationship building, and so it helps to be able to form a bond with someone. And you're right. When I meet someone from foster care, whether I like it or not, we're family, and we act as if we are family.
Right.
And
Yeah.
because of that, I've I've probably got maybe 800 new foster brothers and foster sisters
Yeah.
over the last 9 years. Yeah, it's been great, man. It used to. I mean, I don't know how it's going to be after COVID, but I know you're a speaker. Those events that you go to and speak at, even if you're, just an audience member, those things are moving. Those things are inspiring, and it's a lot of fun to meet other people that have the same experiences that you had. Um, you can't walk into a normal room and say, "Remember when they locked our refrigerator?" But you can walk into a room of foster kids and say, "Remember when they used to lock refrigerators?" And it'll get a big laugh, and people will go,
Right.
"Oh, my fridge was locked," and "Oh, I knew another kid in another house, his fridge was locked." But yeah, and then you bond like that. I mean, it's so easy to bond with a foster kid if you were a foster kid yourself.
Right. I mean that memory right there just made me have a flashback to when the refrigerator was locked with a padlock and a master key, and I remember that as clear as day. And so that's a good one right there. In fact, I was talking about childhood itself with some adults that they were not involved in foster care, and I was like, yeah, I remember. I couldn't just run in and out of the refrigerator. There was a lock on the refrigerator, and she was shocked. She said, "What?" And her
Mm-hmm.
friend was there too. And they were both like sitting there in disbelief that anybody would ever put a lock on their refrigerator. They'd never heard of it before. So I can definitely identify with that being a foster care thing.
And it makes you tough. I mean, it makes you tougher in the eyes of the world
Hmm.
to know that you lived in a house where they locked the refrigerator.
Right.
Because
Right.
to the normal person, that sounds like prison.
Mhm.
I
Right.
don't have access to Kool-Aid. What is wrong with? Yeah, no. I'm always a little bit surprised at how little we talked about it earlier, about how little people know about foster care or know about it, but but didn't care enough to learn more about it. Because I mean, like I said, everybody's seen Annie, so I mean,
Yep.
you can't tell me that you don't know anything about foster care. But on the same hand, they don't want to think about that stuff.
Right.
That's a sad thing to think about.
Hmm.
So if maybe you instead of thinking about it, you say, "No, I don't know anything about it," in the hopes that the conversation will move away from that. But
Right.
yeah, no, I'll tell you, it's over the last 9 years though, there's been a big change in stigma. We used to say all the time, "Oh, there's a stigma attached to foster care." When they see us, like I said, they hide their purses or they clutch their wallets. They think we're criminals. They think we're bad. We're on Law and Order as the perp almost 80% of the time. They grew up in foster care, rough life. But over the last 8 years, I've seen more young adults so much more put together than when I left foster care.
Mm-hmm.
They are in complete control of their situation. They know their rights. They know the facts. It's been so impressive, and the number of terrible stories has gone down over I mean, I have nothing to do with this number changing, but
Right.
over the last 9 years, especially during the Obama years, foster care, that stigma went away. They became advocates rather than just foster kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, again, I'm not bringing anything political into the mix, but there was a lot of activity during the Obama years that was foster care centric. Now, over the last 4 years, there's been 2 or 3 bills that have been passed that benefit foster care. There have been a couple events, but during the Obama years, I mean, it was monthly to have. It was no surprise that the Obamas were having an event about foster care, and so that stigma went away, and these kids got the respect that they deserved.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's a trend that's going to keep happening, and these kids are going to be more a part of their story than observers because they're kids.
Right.
That's important.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to Chris Chmielewski.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
We're talking to Chris Chmielewski, and he's just a wealth of information. And as much as I'd like to talk about some of the other things that he's doing out there, his foster care endeavor to me is just monumental. We're going to be back with more of his bird's eye view and more of his perspectives right after a brief message. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern, hosted by Cedric Riley, America's Next Motivator, sponsored by our good friends at 4D Healthware. And we're back. So, Chris, you see the tides changing a little bit in foster care. Is that right?
I do, as far as the kids themselves and what they're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
The system as a whole it's never going to change. The system as a whole.
Wow.
If you think about it, you have very few options to handle the problem that foster care handles. I've been waiting for somebody to come in with something innovative, something new, and it's hard. It's hard to sit there and wait for something that's probably not going to happen.
But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I want to pause here, and I want to dig into this a little bit because you said that the foster care system is never going to change.
The way it's set up,
right?
The structure of it,
right? And why do you think that the structure of it will never change? Because I look at life in many ways at the same time, right? So I say, if a house had some problems, you might fix it, right? But over the years, if that house just became foundation, like the foundation of the house became broken beyond repair, and the electrical was rotted beyond repair, and the plumbing was malfunctional beyond repair, all at the same time, it will become a condemned house. Nobody could be inside of it anymore. And then eventually that house will be torn down and a new house will be built in its place, one with a strong foundation, proper plumbing, proper electrical, and a proper roof. Why is it that you see from your bird's eye view, and it's a huge view, that the actual structure of foster care cannot be torn down and rebuilt?
Take the example that you gave me, and now let's pretend that the government owns that house. So the things that need fixed, it's going to take years and years and years before they get around to it, if they ever get around to it. Because government moves slow, because there is a request put into the plumber, and that has to go through proper channels, and then it has to be funded, and then it has to take place, and we have to be able to see great results. And that's every single thing that's wrong with your house. You have to go through all those steps. All those steps. It takes years. Things are falling off the wall. The foundation is crumbling. It's going to fall down on itself. However, once it falls down on itself, someone's going to clear some space and put a tent down so they can keep going business as usual.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a government-run program.
Mm-hmm.
It has certain things, certain benchmarks that it has to make. It's got incentive-based things that it has to try and make. And then the request especially fun. I mean, there's other areas that are a little bit more streamlined. Say like emergency management. Like that is an office within the West that is perfectly fast and does everything in a hurry because that's what it is. It's an emergency.
Right.
Foster care is also an emergency, but it doesn't get emergency attention. It should be run the same way emergency management is run. It should be, you need 2 signatures maybe to get this to happen. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is. Sleepovers. Purchases of money for bikes. Checkups at the doctor. I mean, if you have a checkup at the doctor, your foster parent has to call the social worker. Social worker has to make sure that it's cool with the head of the agency. Then they got to get on the phone with the insurance and make sure it's cool on that end. And then they get back to your foster mom, and then you're going to an appointment in 2 months.
Right.
So it's. I mean, it should be, hey, this kid has a toothache. All right, get him in the dentist, and that's it.
Right.
But it's foster care, and it's managing 450,000 kids, and it's got social workers that have dozens of cases at one time, and it's got head of agencies that have to make a budget, have to show improvement, have to have a good return home rate. I mean, there's layers upon layers of reasons why I'm not optimistic that things are going to get changed, rectified, things are going to get streamlined. There have been improvements. I mean, we get bills in the Senate and the House of Representatives that do improve the lives of foster kids. Mm-hmm. California is trying to remove all group homes. Some marginal success. I mean, there's every state, and that's the other problem, Cedric, is every state is working with its own group, and
right.
and they're not talking amongst each other. There's not, and every 4, maybe 6 years, there's a general national swooping amendment on and on and on, crying about the same problems. Not enough foster parents. Without that, I mean, you got a surplus of kids. Where do they stay? Well, if you're in California, they got rid of group homes. So where do you stay? Sometimes in a juvenile detention facility, sometimes in a hotel, sometimes in your social worker's office.
Right.
And, well, it's a weird business, and it's hard to change it because you're taking care of 460,000 kids at once. And you've got 20,000 of them are going to age out each year. And X amount are going to come in each year. So when do you change the system? There's no break in kids coming and going. So how do you change that substantially? And I say prevention is how you change it.
Okay.
Prevention. Don't even let them come into the system. Fix them at their house.
Right. Now, I think that's an incredible concept as well. Let them stay home and fix their home. I think that's absolutely huge. But what I also hear you saying is that, you know, if this was on the basis of request slips, that they're not getting enough request slips in order for this to be as much of a priority as we need it to be because lives are in a balance. So then I'm thinking, you know, we do see rallies that happen. We do see people who raise awareness, they dedicate their whole lives to raising awareness. Even you've created a magazine, but as we can see, there's only 2 magazines. Are we really just a drop in the bucket when it comes to awareness? Do we actually need to be doing 10 times more awareness?
Okay.
And I mean, even today, is it that, the people that we look around and see doing awareness, is it that that's not enough? Is that the case? Is it that we need a million plus people raising awareness about foster care in America today?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. The voices that we have now are loud, but just like you age out of foster care, you age out of talking about foster care.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not going to go to a foster care event and see a guy my age talking on stage who doesn't have a magazine. The magazine's a key part of it.
Right.
But if I didn't have the magazine, I wouldn't be speaking at these events. I mean,
Right.
some people are good at keeping the passion for speaking about foster care for as long as they can. Other people burn out or age out. Um, but yeah, but what you're saying about awareness, yes, absolutely. This way, the knuckleheads that talk to you don't say they don't know anything about foster care. We have to figure out a better way to recruit foster parents and keep foster parents, good foster parents. We need something in place for that. I mean, there's areas we can improve while the train is still moving. I mean, because that's basically what you're trying to do. You're trying to change things on a moving train,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do some of those things. But let's say you want to get underneath the train has to stop for a second.
Right.
But this train is never going to stop.
Right.
So we just got to touch the intangibles. We just got to grab at what we can grab at, fix what we can fix,
Right.
scream about what we can scream about. We've got to understand that the train itself is probably never going to stop. So the biggest problems are probably never going to get addressed. But what advocates and former foster kids and the allies, what they do is they scream and make people who make the decisions look at that.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, we've got a strong ally in Congress right now, representative by the name of Karen Bass out of California.
Okay.
She's the head of the foster kid folk or the foster care caucus is what they call it. They have a group of senators or representatives, and they all are working to the same end.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do energy. She chose foster care. She's got to be a vice presidential candidate potentially. And for foster care, that would be tremendous.
Right.
If that's a person who can point power into a certain direction to make something happen. We need more of that. We need, on that list of famous foster kids, there's only a handful of senators, there's only a handful of representatives, only a handful, I think maybe 3 presidents. We need a stronger political presence.
Mm.
And we need people who can slow the train down long enough for us to get under there and tinker with what we can tinker with. So we go ahead.
I want you to evaluate this hypothetical. I notice, like when you say that sometimes you end up at a shelter, sometimes you end up at a juvie center, sometimes you end up in somebody's office, right? Those are all sort of involuntary partners to the foster care system at any given time, right? But the concept of partners for foster care is viable. So would it stand to reason that if we created a partner for foster care that would be like this amazing partner, and then as we raise awareness, we're raising awareness about a particular partner, right? Let's say we got a million or a few million people raising awareness about a particular partner, and then Congress and the government says, yeah, let's use this partner over here instead of the shelter, instead of a jail, instead of an office. Let's use this particular partner right here, and let's see how that works. Do you see like a privatized option is what I'm saying? Somebody's idea, somebody's own effort, the people's own effort being a potential partner for foster care. What do you think about that?
Sure, absolutely. Happens all the time. You have had a couple of them on your show. Dr. DeGarmo opened up a boys' home um, just on his own, on a whim. No, not maybe not on a whim, but on his own, and with help from private donors. Of course, you have to go through the government for anything foster care related, so he has partnerships there. Uh, Dr. DeGarmo was an interesting case because he has he made it a point to be friends with his local representatives, and he utilizes that connection and that relationship, um, but it's something beneficial to kids. I mean, and there's a bunch of us. There are a bunch of folks that do that keep tight with the government folks. We have a couple in office now. They're climbing the ranks, and they'll be, hopefully senators that can make real change at some point. Strong partnerships are one of the things that makes foster care a viable thing. I mean, the church is a great example of a partnership with foster care.
Mm-hmm.
CASA is another great example of a partnership within foster care. We have those partnerships, but we need so many more, man. I hope I'm not coming off as a doomsday around here, because I want to make sure that the people know there are amazing kids in care right now that are going to be the next group of advocates.
Yeah.
There are kids waiting for adoption who are going to be tremendous additions to your family. Yep. They're great social workers who are juggling so many caseloads and not making mistakes. There's tremendous foster parents out there. I mean, there's a place in Oklahoma. You'll love this. There's a place in Oklahoma where a lady and her husband bought acres and acres and acres of land and started building houses on that land. And you can move into those houses if you have like a regular job and you can be a foster parent.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So they make sure they have a regular job, so there's not the whole, they're in it for the money thing. Right. Plus, they get an amazing new house to live in. And I mean, it's called Pepper's Ranch, and it's a whole like little, almost a town of houses in a circle, and they all are foster families.
Right.
So kids are growing up with other foster kids, and they're living normal lives, and they're riding horses and doing what you do in Oklahoma. I don't know what else you do in Oklahoma. That was the whole list.
Right.
But these things, these partnerships are amazing. That was a private thing that became a bigger private thing. And I mean, there's a former foster kid in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska, who goes to Walmart, goes to different stores, buys up their inventory, and then gives it away to foster kids. Just gives it to them. When they come into care, they go there, they're given clothes. And I mean, it's a real relief to have things that are your own in a time when things are so crazy and you're not making any choices for yourself.
Right.
And she's a former foster kid. Her name's Leah Sue. There's so many people out there, and they're doing great work. So yes, absolutely, privatized can work, even as an agency, even as the foundation for care in that state. Some places like Florida are all privatized, all the facilities, all the agencies. Yeah. So, and there's a bunch of other states where it's the same. So to answer your question in a long-winded way, yes, absolutely, partnerships are important. They're invaluable, and they're kind of the lifeblood of what foster care is.
Without a doubt. Me, in my different type of world, I see that youth and foster care are some of America's next motivators. And I think that America can look at youth and foster care as a source of information, inspiration, and motivation. That's one of the reasons why I created this platform for youth in care to see, but also for the greater community to see the actual potential of what exists in what, as you say, could be a dirty building called foster care. Inside of that, put what you might think is a dirty building is some of the greatest people on the planet Earth. Is because you grew up with some of the character building lifestyles that we've talked about today. And so, I hear you loud and clear when you say we need to continue to raise awareness in a major way. We're not done raising awareness. I think that's huge. We have not done enough of raising awareness at all. We don't have enough partners. I think that's another monumental tenement of this conversation. There's not enough partners. We need more partners. We need different types of partners. And so, our work in foster care and the plight of youth in foster care is far from over. It's far from over. And what's next? What's next for you? What's next for you, Chris?
Well, this is technically for the magazine the 10th year, so this is the 10th volume. I'd like to do a good job this year. I've been having a lot of health issues over the last couple of years, so the magazine work has been sloppy at best. I would like to improve my work and get it out sooner if I can, and keep giving a platform to kids that want to talk about what they're going through. It started out as just for kids, but then I get a 50-year-old who isn't over it yet,
Right?
And it's go at your own pace as far as getting over foster care is concerned.
Right.
We are the number one sufferers of PTSD, more than police and more than soldiers, if you can believe that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe that. I know that.
Because of that PTSD, I'd like to get some more psychologists, some more medical folks to get together, brainstorm how to lessen the impact of that PTSD has. Because there's a lot of people out there right now sitting on the edge of greatness but can't jump because they're held back by this foster care baggage.
Wow.
They've got to be able to jump, and
go ahead.
They got to be able to jump, and I'm going to get a bunch of psychiatrists to put on their parachutes and jump with them if they have to. We're going to get it figured out. We can't suffer. And the other thing, I don't know how it is with the kids in care now, but I used to notice what I call the trauma Olympics. And that's where you get a bunch of foster kids in the same room and they start telling you how bad their life was. And somebody wants to one up how bad that life was.
Right.
I was in a closet. Oh, yeah, well, I was in a cage.
Right.
And it goes on and on. I would love it if we could start focusing more on what's in front of us than what's behind us.
Without a doubt. I'm a big fan of that. I'm somebody who, let me tell it, I have an invention. I have an actual invention that I believe would make foster care a much more effective thing. And I'm a long ways off from manifesting that invention, but I'm a futuristic type of person. I'm into creating a future as opposed to pouring over the past, because like you say, the stories go from good to bad to worse and worse and worse and worse. And what we really need is a way to create more positive life outcomes. And so I'm 100% on board with you when it comes to the future, creating a positive future for youth in care. And I just want to ask you as well, are you looking for any help with Foster Focus magazine? How can somebody get in touch with you if they want to write or if they want to contribute?
Yeah, actually, first-hand accounts make up 80% of what goes into the magazine. Foster kids always get first crack at pages. I mean, I'll push Beyonce out of an issue if a foster kid sends in something. It's that serious with the former foster kids. Their voice needs to be heard. Writers at fosterfocusmag.com is the best place to reach me. I run a pretty loose ship. There's no deadlines. There's no word count. Do it at your own pace. Send it in when you're ready, and I will save the pages for you. Yeah, and I want to say something. you're a heck of a guy. You're a go-getter. And I believe that whatever you think you should manifest, it will be manifested. There's certain people who don't know what no sounds like.
Right.
They have the ability to look past it. There's people who have armadillo hard skin and doesn't let the rejection of something get them down. You've got those features within your personality. I think you're going to be fine. You seem like somebody who does what they say they're going to do. So if you've got an invention that's going to change foster care, I can't wait to write about it.
Without a doubt. Let's see if we can make that happen. I have 3 quick questions for you that I'd like you to answer. What is survival to you?
Adapting and adjusting.
What is success to you?
I don't know. I'm not there yet.
What is greatness to you?
I don't know. I'm not there yet either.
This has been a great interview. Chris, your work is commendable. It's respectable. It's monumental. You decided to create a body of work that's been informing people about the realities of foster care, good, bad, and great, for over a decade. I want to respect that today, give you your crown today and your recognition today, and let you know that you are one of America's next motivators. Welcome to the Pride Empowerment Network. I'm happy to have you, and I look forward to working with you potentially in the future. Is that all right?
Proud to be here. Happy to do it.
Well, this has been another great installment of America's Next Motivator. Chris Chmielewski has, like I said, he's done an outstanding job of being a part of the solution. He's a great example for us all, and it's these type of people that America's Next Motivator is here to highlight. People that you didn't know about, but you know about now. And so please tune in tomorrow for another installment of America's Next Motivator. I'm your host, Cedric Riley, and this has been another great episode. Bye-bye.